Now, even though a 2020 report commissioned by Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham into Operation Augusta, set up by the police and social services in 2004 after the death of 15-year-old Victoria Agoglia, kick-started an IOPC investigation into why the operation was understaffed and closed just 1 year after it began, the IOPC have now said that while Operation Augusta identified at least 57 victims and 97 potential suspects and a compelling picture of the systemic exploitation of looked after children in the care system, they cannot determine who, if anyone, is to blame. In 2020, Andy Burnham commissioned the report, which led to 3 Greater Manchester police officers being investigated and an investigation into the decision-making process of Operation Augusta. But the IOPC have said it could not determine who took the final decision to close Operation Augusta in July 2005, nor the rationale for doing so, citing challenges that they faced, such as the lack of available contemporaneous records of meetings and decisions, with some former Greater Manchester Police employees unwilling or unable to cooperate. Red flag right there. Why would any copper worth their salt not want to help in an inquiry into child exploitation? I wonder. Steve Noonan, IOPC Director of Major Investigations, said that while we found evidence that arrangements were put in place for the future safeguarding of survivors of child exploitation, unfortunately we, like the mayoral review team, were not able to locate evidence showing who took the decision to close Operation Augusta and, more importantly, why. Well, surely it all boils down to and falls on the Chief Constable's shoulders. Surely that would be where the blame lies. Noonan said, "We have identified several areas of potential learning for Greater Manchester Police to consider and now await further information on how practices have changed since 2005, which will inform our decision on whether to issue any statutory recommendations." Well, so long as they're learning their lesson, eh? I mean, I know we're always learning, but Christ, this needs more than some simple learning exercises. Especially seeing as in November 2020, a supposed replacement investigation into the exploitation of children was started by Greater Manchester Police. Seeing as Operation Augusta was such a great success, is said to have identified 126 suspected paedophiles and 71 suspected victims. Although I'm not personally sure if that's an extra 126 suspected abusers and an extra 71 suspected victims, or it's increased from the number identified in 2004. Greater Manchester Police Deputy Chief Constable Terry Woods said the Greater Manchester approach to tackling and preventing child exploitation is normally to ignore it. Is now thankfully entirely different to the time frame of this report. In Greater Manchester Police, we have a dedicated child exploitation unit who are committed to pursuing perpetrators and seeking justice for victims of child exploitation, regardless to the passage of time. This teamwork, alongside the multi-agency safeguarding hub in every district, actively safeguarding vulnerable children and providing specialist support to anyone who comes forward as a victim of child exploitation, wherever they are in the region. This multi-agency response to safeguarding and tackling child exploitation is incomparable to the practices of 2005, and we will continue to engage with the IOPC on how practices have substantially changed since then, and fully consider any recommendations they put forward. Now think about it for a moment. Ex-coppers being asked about their involvement in the original operation about child exploitation into thousands of young people, turning round and not wanting to get involved over such a serious offence or offences. Must make you wonder. It's not something I would simply just accept, and in fact the government should not be accepting either and should compel these people to give statements or evidence. But they know the game. They know how to play it. So long as they all blame each other or don't blame anyone, then nobody individually can be charged. Just like when the police stop a car and find a doobie in the footwell. If all the occupants deny it, or even if they all admit it, the police can't really do a great deal about it because they need someone to pin the blame on, a person. They can't pin the blame on everyone, as is one person's responsibility, just as the decision to shut the original investigation into child exploitation was the decision of one person. But if that one person can't be identified, then no one can be held to account. I personally don't know how anyone can live their life knowing that their actions had led to countless other young girls being abused when they could have put a stop to it, and still can put a stop to further abuse. But instead they choose to keep their mouths shut, proving what a sick bunch of mentally disturbed people the police really are.